Braj Jana Ranjana Shodana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Jamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Guru ki jai. So please feel free to take a copy of Bhagavad Gita so that you can read along with me. I'll take the small one, that's okay. So we would be actually reading from chapter 10. We got two versions, a hard version and a soft version. So you might have to find the page number which is in your version. The way you find is on the top in the center, you have the chapter number dot the verse number. So if you so you know where to go before or after. So we are going to go at chapter 10, verse 1. The one, soft comment. Do you know the page number? If you know, then I'll let everybody use 10:1. The chapter is called The Opulence of the Lord. Of the Absolute, sorry. 419 is the page number. Everybody's got it? 419. Okay. So before we dive into this beautiful chapter of ours, we'll talk a little bit about what has been happening. So everybody knows, right? The beautiful Bhagavad Gita. It's a conversation between Yudhishthira Maharaj and Thank you. I'm just checking if everybody is listening or not. Thank you so much. It's Arjuna and Krishna. That was a trick question. So yes. See, that's how we make sure that everybody is relaxed now, knows where we are, what are we talking about. But okay. So yes, it's between Krishna and Arjuna. So Krishna is giving knowledge to Arjuna, but only because he said, I'm confused with what I'm supposed to do. He's at the battlefield, not knowing what's right versus what's wrong. A term that in translation to English we call as duality. Duality is where you have two sides always. Correct, incorrect. Right, wrong. Should I do, should I not do? Right? That is duality, which is what we always suffer with. So Arjuna is also representing us, and he's showing that us. So when all of that started happening, right? If Arjuna at some point said, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Please instruct me. Please give me the knowledge so that I can start understanding what my duties are. I'm right now in a state where I'm confused. So that is where Krishna would start giving in the knowledge about self first, the soul. Who are we? And then he's kind of talking about all these different aspects of yoga systems. Yoga meaning the method of reaching the absolute. So there are different methods that are given in the Bhagavad Gita. And we can pick any one of them, but then there is a comparison also done. But that's the point where Arjuna is now starting to wonder, is that you're telling us about this concept of reaching the absolute as a yoga process. But what is that absolute? Right? So that is where in chapter 7, which is called the knowledge of the absolute, is given. Who is that? What is that knowledge? Then chapter 8 is about the process of attaining the supreme. Then we go to the chapter 9, which is titled as the most confidential knowledge, the Param Guhyam Jnana. Right? So it is the most confidential knowledge is because despite the fact that it has been given in the Bhagavad Gita itself, Hare Krishna, still people are not able to understand it. Now what has been given in this, and then we come to the chapter 10, which is the opulence of the absolute. So before we get that, let's understand a little what did Krishna tell very briefly in chapter 9. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Thank you. So chapter 9, in a summary of the chapter itself, Krishna is trying to say, no matter which category you pick, I am the best in that category. You know, it's like we saying, oh, this company, or let's say the car, right? Among the SUVs, this is the best car. Among the hatchbacks, this is the best car. Among the electric cars, this is the best car. Right? Among the cities, this is the best city for jobs. This is the best city for something else. So in that way, the answer for usually for most of the, you might be best in a certain category, but you cannot be the best in all the categories. So that is what Krishna is explaining. Arjuna said, no matter whatever category you pick up in, what is the best in that is a representation of who I am. Now that Krishna is telling us, in order for us to be able to get to a realization that he is the supreme, that there cannot be anybody who is equal or greater than him. That, because we don't, when we say, so Srila Prabhupada gives this very beautiful story again and again. He talks about this Mr. Toad. Okay? Not Todd, Toad. So he says that there's this toad in a well, and there's another one who has recently moved to that well, and he's trying to tell this Mr. Toad, that, you know what, there is an ocean out there, and that ocean is huge. Don't worry. I have a kid myself, so I'm okay. let them move around, don't worry. So that there is an ocean out there, and he says, ocean? What is an ocean? I don't understand what is an ocean. He said, it's a huge body of water. I said, huge? Bigger than my well? And he says, yes, much bigger than them. How much bigger? And he expands his chest. Is this big? No, much more bigger. Expands it further. This big? No, much more bigger. And then he expands more. No. And then he bursts himself, basically in trying to expand. What we are trying to come with that as an example to understand is that sometimes we confine ourselves so much that when we talk of something which is in the current context beyond our experience of seeing, feeling, etc., we are not able to conceive it. Krishna himself says, I am inconceivable, because no matter how great we think something can be, we cannot still equate and understand Krishna. So that is why he gives this full chapter of every category, and he says, no matter what you pick, I am the greatest. That should help us understand that whatever greatness we have seen around is nothing but a representation of Krishna. And that is where the chapter ends. And he says, the final thing that Krishna says, he says, basically Krishna says, what is the point of I giving you of all of these knowledge about me? Because no matter how much people I try and explain to you, there is no point in you getting that, because no matter what I'm telling you, you will not understand it. By even these parameters of I trying to give you best of the every category and saying that represents me, you're still not understanding even a tiniest percentage about me. right? And no matter what, no matter what analogies I give, no matter what I try to explain, how do we come to that point of saying not able to understand no matter how we describe things? We understand infinity, right? If infinity, that symbol or that word or that concept of infinity was not given in mathematics, how would you define infinity? It's bigger than 100. No, 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 much bigger than 100. Bigger than 1,000. No, much bigger than 1,000. 10,000? A million? 100 billion? No, it's still nothing in comparison to, no matter how big a number we know, it is, yes, it is bigger than that, but it is still representation of a very tiny portion of the quantity that infinity is trying to represent. So no matter how much Krishna is saying, I tell you about me, and you're listening to it wonderfully, but you're still understanding only a fragment. Because only whatever I have explained to you comes out by nothing but just a tiny spark coming out from me. So imagine a full flame versus a tiny spark. If a tiny spark comes and falls on my dhoti, it makes a little tiny hole, burn hole. Versus what is that a fire can do. So all these great opulence that we see around us, when he's trying to represent that, that's nothing but it's not even a spark. See, it comes out from a spark. It's a byproduct from even a spark. So with that being explained to Arjuna, now he's saying, because you are special, I'm going to explain you more. That is where the 10th chapter starts. He said, let me now explain you exactly how you're supposed to understand me. And we'll get into the detail of that a little bit, okay? So, chapter 10, verse 1, Krishna says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, as Krishna said, listen again, O mighty armed Arjuna, because you are my dear friend. For your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained. So all this that I was telling you about Krishna being the best in every category is what Krishna just explained. He says, now listen carefully. And I'm going to tell you more about me, something that by even this concept of trying to understand the Supreme Lord through these indirect means will not lead you to. Now what does this explain us? There are two things over here. Let's break it down one by one and we'll go into the detail. What does it mean that by all these aspects of looking at every category and understanding Krishna as the Supreme, you're still not able to understand? Has anybody been to and irrespective of which one, any meditation session? No? Or you guys are lucky? You have been? Okay. Like, what types? Like, do they? Okay. Guided meditations, right? So, I've attended one and tell me if your experience was similar or not. So, in that, what they were saying is, okay, all right, sit down, back straight, eyes closed, deep breaths, and then they'll say, feel around you, feel that you are on a chair, now feel that you are in a room, expand your consciousness, and in very different ways they kind of talk about that. In a lot of ways they're trying to help you expand consciousness or help you come and concentrate to your identity as a soul, but they don't directly say it. Was that something similar? Yeah. So basically what happens is, for the people who are not fully understanding the Lord himself, the Lord is merciful, like he's doing over here, giving analogies and different methods in order to try and explain. The Lord is merciful, he makes his experience felt in tiny ways, even if you're not ready for the full experience. So what that means is, when we talk about, oh, I need to understand that the entire thing is a big energy, that there is a supreme controller, there is a supreme energy from which everything is manifesting. Let's understand, let's imagine that energy. People try and conceive the Supreme Lord in that way also. It will give you what Krishna says, that only a fragment of my understanding. Not that that method is wrong, that's also a yoga practice. But it gives you only a fragment of understanding. That is good in case you're getting nothing. But if we have the capability to go further, by reading the Bhagavad Gita and come to the full understanding as Krishna is saying over here, let me explain you further, then we should take the opportunity of that. Why leave ourselves in grade 1 only when we have the capability to pass out from the schools and go to higher education and do all of that? Right? But then what is missing? Why is that we are not getting that knowledge? What is that is qualifying us to come to the point of coming to that knowledge? Please have a seat for whatever moment you have with us. Please. So, he's saying over here, what is the reasoning he gives? O mighty armed Arjuna, because you are my dear friend. That is why you are coming to a point of being able to listen to this point. Now that's fair. Is it not? We have that experience also. Can I know you even without being your friend? Like fully know you without being your friend? I can look at you, oh, you are a male, you're a female. Sure, a little generic sense, little tiny bit of understanding, sure, I can get that. Oh, you are a father, you are a mother, I see you with a kid, I don't see you with a kid, whatever it is. I can try and speculate information. I might be wrong. I see somebody with a kid, I said, oh, maybe the father or the mother. But that might be wrong because it's speculation. So, without knowing you, without being your friend, I cannot know you completely. And same Krishna is also saying, you cannot know me without being my friend. How do we become a friend of somebody? By spending time with them. But how do we you cannot directly go and start spending time with somebody, right? There has to be a step before that. Approach them, talk to them. That is also correct. There has to be some aspect. By knowing about them, yes. That's what we are trying to do, know about them. What do you think is the first step towards friendship? Acceptability, that's also a good answer. That you like someone, that's also a good answer. There is one very fundamental thing without which nothing can happen. Relationship, we are getting closer. Anybody use trust? Okay. All those things are good. But till when you don't come to a point of meeting the person, there can be no conversations, no knowing, no trust, no relationship, nothing. How do I come to the point of first coming closer to you? I come close to you because there is some commonality of aspect that will come into the picture, right? Oh, you came to the temple, I also came to the temple. We came to know each other. That common aspect of where the two come together, from where, as you said, we'll approach. Somebody will introduce. We will have conversations. That is how friendship starts. How is that going to work with Krishna? Who is going to make that arrangement for us to be in the same room with Krishna where we can start the process of being friend? That also Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, it cannot happen without the mercy or without the presence of a guru, a teacher, a spiritual master, whatever term you feel like taking. All the same thing. So without a guru, without a teacher, we cannot come to a point where we can approach Krishna. It is like, why would we even say that? Why cannot I pick up the Bhagavad Gita and start reading? Somebody told me about it, right? Even that person acted as a guru in some way or form. He said, hey, read this, good, nice book. So somebody triggered it for us. Because till when somebody tells us that, oh, you know what, you want to understand God? Go to a temple or a church or something. Somebody said something. Somebody taught us something. Those are our first gurus to help us initiate the process. But can I give you more than what I have? No. If you ask me for money, I probably have $2 in coins with me and that's all I can give you. Maybe if I go to the ATM, withdraw say $2,000, that's the maximum I can give you. I cannot give you more than that. So if we need Krishna, who is the most supreme, he can only be given by those who have Krishna themselves. So the greater the realization of the person or the teacher or the guru you have is the amount of realization you can have. So when we say a bona fide guru is the one who comes up in a proper parampara system. Krishna gave knowledge to Brahma through the heart, who gave knowledge to Narada, to Vyasa, so on, the chain continues. 32nd in that entire parampara of ours is His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And his disciples are the 33rd in that. That entire thing is, by the way, at the end of the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita you're holding. That is how we become friends. Without that, whatever you're doing, is that a waste? Potentially not. Why? Because right now you're trying to find out, go out and figure out a way in which to become friends. So even that is needed, because at that time, some kind person is going to say, hey, it seems you're looking for something. What is that you're looking for? And then they give you the direction. So seeking is, yes, the first step. When we become inquisitive, when we have a desire to know, that is the first step. But the actual first practical step is when we start getting guidance from a guru, from a spiritual master. So that is what Krishna is saying, is that I'm going to give you this knowledge. Listen to me very carefully, because I'm going to give you further knowledge. Giving this knowledge is better than what I have already told you. And I'm telling you all this because you are my dear friend. The same thing was, by the way, said at the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita also, where Krishna says, because you are my dear friend, so I will give you the knowledge. Okay? So let's see what Krishna has to say further. I'll try and cover a few verses here if possible, if time permits. Yeah, we're doing good. So, verse 2 on the next page is, neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulence, for in every respect I am the source of the demigod and sages. English translation weakens things a little bit, but not in this case. Srila Prabhupada has done an amazing job. He's mercifully given us the full essence of things in English also. So what is a demigod? You can try and look at the Sanskrit, if you know Sanskrit or any other familiar language. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're saying it's not designated everywhere? Huh? Fair enough. Thank you so much. Thank you for expressing that. Yes, you're right. It is confusing because that's how we have been learning things so far, right? And that's fair. So let's look at the Sanskrit. It really helps us for those who have been in the background of listening things a little bit. It says, Aham adhirhi devanam. Demigods is Devis and Devatas. We know that term? Right. So that is what Devis and Devatas is what gets translated in English as the demigods. Now if you go by the English word exactly, demigods means something which, if we go in deeper into the fact, yes, it does apply to Devis and Devatas. So what Krishna is saying over here is that even these Devis and Devatas that exist, so we have to understand the terminologies between, because if you see the first verse, right, if you see the Sanskrit of it, it says Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. For those who know a little bit of Sanskrit, Uvacha means to speak. And who is speaking? Shri Bhagavan. When Krishna is speaking, the Bhagavad Gita says Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. So that's Bhagavan as a terminology. And now he's saying neither the demigods, which is the Devis and Devatas, neither the sages, which is the Maharshis, neither of them know my origin or opulence. They do not know me. Now that's a little surprising. Even the great demigods, who are clearly far above who we are, they're not the same as we are, right? You took the example of Ma Durga, Lord Shiva. Are we equal to them? By no means. When they, at that stage, are not able to understand Krishna fully, then what is our capability? Right? And he's saying, why do they not understand it? Because I am the source. I am the source of the demigods and the sages. And that is where he says, Aham adhirhi. Adhir is like, I am the source. He's saying, I am the source of all of these Devi Devatas. Right? So when he's saying this, then when I am the source of them, they cannot know me completely. They only know, it's like, in an analogy perspective, not fully accurate, but just to try and understand this, a child is born from the parent. So can the child ever know fully about the parent? They can probably know only something after their birth. Oh, my father, after I was born, he was doing this, he was working here, and then I have seen him do things, I've seen him become old, and so on and so forth. But what did he do as a kid? He has no experience. The child has no experience. Right? So when Krishna is the cause, the original source of the demigod, there is no way the demigods can know him. That's what he's saying over here. So now let's understand from the beautiful purport that Srila Prabhupada gives, because he explains this terminology. I'm trying to quickly find. I've got a smaller font, so I'm having a little difficulty, sorry. So, okay, it was in the first verse, that's fine. So, let's look at the purport of the first verse that Srila Prabhupada has given. He explains the term Bhagavana, what does that mean? Right? He says the word Bhagavan is explained thus by Parashar Muni, one who is full in 6 opulences. Bhagavana means the one who has Bhaga. It's like Dhanavan has Dhana, Balavan has Bala, Bhagavan has Bhaga. What is Bhaga? The 6 opulences. And not just having it, he said he's supreme. So which means he has it to the maximum quantity. That's the definition. What are the 6 opulences? One who has full strength, fame, wealth, knowledge, beauty, and renunciation. These are 6 bhagas. One who is the source of everything, possesses everything. Is there more wealth that can happen than everything? No. So that is Krishna. No matter how much wealth we have something. Somebody else has greater. We can say on the planet the wealthiest person is this, but still that person does not possess everything. But Krishna does. In the same way, the art of renunciation, the aspect that he can give up and is not attached to anything. He explains that in the Bhagavad Gita, that despite the fact that I am the cause and the creator of everything, I am still detached from it. I am still aloof from it. That's the greatest renunciation. Have we created anything ever? Maybe a little food, maybe created a painting, something. How much of our creation have we been able to let go? I don't care about it. Right? Like not be attached with it complete. I do it, take it away. I do it, take it away. We might be able to do it with one thing. Oh, I'm very generous. I love cooking for everybody. I'm going to cook and feed everybody nicely. But I can do it with one thing or 2 things. Can I do it with everything? No. So like this, there are 6 opulences which the possessor of all these 6 opulences is who is termed as Sri Bhagavana. So there is also another term, let me also explain that real quickly, is because we might have heard this term. It's called Ishvara. Do you know what is the meaning of the word Ishvara? Controller. Thank you so much, Prabhu. So Ishvara means controller. Are you a controller in any sense? Yes. Tiny bit. You can decide, I want to put my phone in my right pocket or my left pocket. You can control that. I can control, I want to sit on this side of the room or that side of the room. You can control. So in that, by definition, because you are controlling some aspect, you're also Ishvara. But a tiny one, because you can control only a little tiny aspect of it. So in that way, somebody else, let's say for example, Lord Indra. Lord Indra controls? Anybody? Make a guess. Rain. What does Lord Indra control? Rains. Thank you so much. Thank you. So he controls rain, but can he control sun? No. Who controls sun? Suryadev. So all of them are also Ishwaras because they control some aspect, but not everything. The one who will control everything and by whose energy everything works will be called the Parama Ishvara. Ishvara Paramah Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. This is Sri Brahma Samhita, where Lord Brahma is singing this in the glories of Krishna. He's saying he is the Parama Ishvara, Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. So that is the difference between when we say Devi Devtas are Ishwaras, much greater Ishwaras than what we are, but they're not Parama Ishwaras. They are the cause of something, but not the cause of all the causes. That is an interesting aspect. That is what Krishna is trying to say, because that is not known by most of the people, or that realization is not there, so not everybody knows me. And that, I'm not saying it for myself, the third verse clearly gives you that answer to what I'm just saying. Krishna is saying, he who knows me as the unborn, as the beginless, as the supreme Lord of all the worlds, he only, undiluted among men, is freed from all sins. So only when, and there are many verses which very clearly describe this as an aspect. He's very clearly saying one who knows me to be the unborn. Let's first understand this. Has anybody ever heard of Krishna taking birth? Yes. When does he take birth? Mathura, and that day is called Janmashtami. Did he actually take birth? Because what happens is, when we say he took birth, with birth, what always comes with birth? The other side of the spectrum is death. So that means then people start talking about the arrow hit Krishna and he died. But the verse says, one who knows me to be unborn, only they understand me. So Srila Prabhupada very mercifully helps us to understand this. Have you seen in the morning the beautiful sunrise? Yeah. Have you seen that peaceful moment of sunset? Do we say the sun is gone, drowned in the ocean, if you're looking at from a lake? Is it gone? No. Is it born again, a new sun the next day? No. The appearance, it appears and it disappears. That is why we say, we never use the word born. We say it's the appearance day of Krishna. Because he's always been there. It's just that he's manifested himself in a way that we can see him. And then when he unmanifests himself from our vision, we say he's disappeared. But he has always been originally in the same position. One who understands that is the one who really understands Krishna. Let's do a little comparison with Devis and Devtas. First, let's understand what is the average age of a human in Kali Yuga? Like by the scriptures, not what we statistically see. There's a very different reason for that. But what is that the scriptures talk about average age for a human in Kali Yuga? 100 years. Fantastic answer. That's correct. 100 in Kali Yuga. You keep going back one yuga, keep adding a 0. That's the average prescribed age. What about others? That's humans we have talked about in different ages. Every species has a particular prescribed years. Now we are 100 years because of our own actions. We end up reducing that, and we end up, living for a certain number of years. In the same way, even Lord Brahma, the creator of this Brahmanda, this universe, also has a prescribed age. Have we ever heard the description of a universe, a Brahmanda coming out of the pores of Lord Vishnu? Anybody? You've heard? Right? It is a very beautiful scripture called Srimad Bhagavatam. If we read, all these things are very beautifully explained, and not just explained in terms of a story. The scientific aspect around it was also described very beautifully. What does it mean? So basically, from Lord Vishnu, Brahmandas are coming, which is like many, 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 many different universes. Each Brahmanda has a Brahma. At the creation of the Brahmanda, Lord Brahma is born. And the Brahmanda dissolves back and is ended at the death of Brahma. In his, now again, theory of relativity, we have heard that, right? Read that? It was given in Srimad Bhagavatam way long behind. The 100 years for us is not 100 years of Lord Brahma, because he's on a very different planetary system. It is millions and millions of years for us, which is 100 cycles of 4 yugas, basically. Oh, 1,000, sorry, not 100, 1,000. So that is, so Brahma, that is one, so Lord Brahma, for his time frame, his age is 100 years. At that time, he dies. So every living entity will take birth and will die. Now, we can get digressed into, but Lord Shiva is a very different. He's Shiva Tattva, he's not Jiva Tattva. He's very different. But otherwise, all the Devatas that we talk about, they have their birth and they have their death. They are prescribed. Indra, for example, is a designation, not a person's name. Suryadev is a designation, not a person's name. They take that designation, every living entity. You yourself can become elevated to take up that designation at some time. 1,000 Ashma-Veda Yajnas and you're Indra. Right? If you're able to do that. So that's how you can very easily qualify to be at all these positions. So all these living entities, which is called the Jiva Tattva, are the ones which will have a birth and which will have a death, unless you are out of the material world, which is our original constitutional position. But anybody who is taking birth will die. But Krishna says, I am unborn. One who understands this difference knows Krishna, otherwise they don't. The next he's saying, as the beginless. How do we define God? If we have to, one is the Bhagavan, a definition that we just talked about. But if I have to, in a very simplistic manner, say what is the meaning of God? What is the definition of God? Can anybody make an attempt? The source of everything. But what does that mean? That's a good answer, but the supreme, okay. Expand on what he said. Source of everything. How do I explain what the source of everything means? Everything comes from God, yes. You were saying something? Source of power, source of knowledge, right. So let's do it this way. Fantastic. This microphone is made out of plastic, some metals. Where did that come from? From somewhere. Where did that come from? From somewhere. Where did that come from? From somewhere. We can keep tracing back and back and back and back and back. But when Krishna says, for everything there is a beginning, you have transformed one thing into another. We can keep going back, actually, even as I was talking about the description in Srimad Bhagavatam, it very beautifully described how everything starts with Mahat Tattva. The most first ingredient that was given to Lord Brahma, he said, start creation now. So you can keep tracing it back, but where did that come from? It all ultimately, it came from Krishna, as you were saying, right? He's the source of everything. We can keep back tracing everything, and it ultimately will say, okay, it came from Krishna. But now he said, where did Krishna come from? That's where we stop. He said he never came from anywhere because he's beginless, that he says it. That is the definition of God. From whom everything else comes, but he never comes from anything else. Because otherwise, everything else has a source. But the source of everything is Krishna. So if you keep tracing back and you come at a point and say, no, this does not have a source, that is God. That is Krishna. Right? So if you look at the verse, he very clearly says, we talked about that one who knows me to be the unborn and as the beginless, as the supreme Lord of all the world. Lord Jagannatha, the Lord of all the universe. Right? One who knows and understands this about me, that I am the one who is the proprietor of everything, is the one who is ultimately not deluded, and he will become free from sins. Why? That I'll explain in a second. So we understand, right, from this, when Krishna says that when I tried to explain you all of these things by giving you analogy of I being the best in every category, as he had done in the 9th chapter, that knowledge about me is nothing but a fragment of a spark coming out of me. So from that, he is now expanding himself because Arjuna is the friend. He's gone through the process of becoming a friend via a friend. Through that process, now that information is being revealed to him about that no matter what I tell you, understand this fact, even the demigods, even the best and best out there do not know me completely. And what is that? What is that needs to be known about me is the fact that I'm unborn, I'm beginless, I'm the source of everything and the Lord of everything. So that is what we need to know and we need to understand about Krishna himself, and from there on only do we start our journey of understanding him. And this knowledge aspect, we can keep going here and there. Now, the last time I was taking this class, I asked that the chapter is titled as the most confidential knowledge, Param Guhyam Jnana. It's written here, right here, it's printed, millions of copies. How is it still confidential? Because even if the knowledge is available in these words, in these Sanskrit, people call themselves Sanskrit scholars, but they still cannot understand it, because till when Krishna is not approached to the right prescribed method, we cannot fully understand it. We will understand that there is some supreme energy out there, there is a light, there is this ways to understand, that ways to understand, but all of that is nothing but understanding the fire from a spark. So to fully understand, we need to fully absorb ourselves in the process of Shravanam, which is listening, which also includes reading, from proper authorized sources. And that authorized source is always a parampara. That does not mean it's going to be just one person who is authorized and has the proprietor to give this knowledge to everybody. If you go to the end of the introduction in the book that I have, is page 32, but that's where I was saying is the full parampara system. When you go up and take admission in a university or try and get knowledge about anything, don't we inquire where the knowledge is coming from? Is the person giving the knowledge qualified or not? Don't we ask, you're trying to treat me, doctor, where did you even get your degree from? Don't we try and get that kind of an understanding about everything that we engage with every day? Then why not for spiritual knowledge? Why don't we ask this as a question? You started trying to teach me. Where did you learn from? What is your qualification to teach me? That qualification comes from following a parampara. Evam paramparar praptir. Evam rajasoyo vida. So that knowledge needs to be like this, got from a proper parampara system. And then again, there are beautiful scriptures. Does anybody know how a GPS works? Make a guess, make a guess. We all use it every day, the technology behind it. Triangulation of the satellites. So in simple terms, what that means is you have 3 satellites. Minimum 3 satellites that you connect with. The triangulation method is each of the satellites says you are X distance from me, and then you need minimum 3 to exactly pinpoint where you are. 3, that's the key. Guru, Shastra, Sadhu. Those are the GPS for spiritual journey. You need to read the scriptures, the Shastra. You need to follow along with sadhus, which is devotee association. See how are they understanding and executing. And you always need a guru to teach. And if all three needs to be coinciding with each other, otherwise there is something flawed. Analogy perspective, I love the analogies that are given to us to help us understand complex concepts. If I give a white powder to all of you, and then I ask, how does it taste? Sweet. How does that taste? Sweet. How does that taste? Sweet. How does that taste? Salty. What does that mean? Everybody else got sugar, you got salt. Right? The conclusion needs to be the same. And this chapter is beautiful because it gives the conclusion also. When Arjuna started reading and understanding Bhagavad Gita, he very clearly concluded, after understanding from Krishna, he says, who are you? Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Param. He's like explaining that you are the best in the best in the best, basically. If we are talking to any devotee, please explain me who is Krishna. Oh, he is that person who was born there and he died over there. You're not coming to the same explanation or conclusion as Arjuna did, which means that person is not the right source of getting knowledge. Pick up another Bhagavad Gita. This Bhagavad Gita is called Bhagavad Gita as it is, or in Hindi Bhagavad Gita, Yatha Rupa. Why as it is? Because that conclusion is preserved in here. That essence, that devotion towards Krishna is preserved. I have personally myself gone through multiple copies of Bhagavad Gita. Some where I'm saying this verse, the Param Brahma Param Dhamma, they're trying to conclude absolutely something else of the Bhagavad Gita and said, all right, you're trying to give verses, let me see what do you say about this verse which is so conclusive. The verse is missing. Don't be surprised, the verse will be missing. I'll give you the verse number. There are others who just write something in the name and put the name Bhagavad Gita on the cover, but there is no verses for you to reconcile and say, this does not look like what it means. But this is the copy where you get the Sanskrit of every shloka of Bhagavad Gita, word to word translation and the purport only to help you understand it. That is why Bhagavad Gita has it. So that is what comes through a parampara system. It's called unadulterated. No additions, no subtractions. Right? We have something of the orders of 5 minutes to our session, but I would like to take the opportunity to see if there are any questions, realizations. Feel free also, because this is an open session, feel free also to challenge. We have been said that we have to understand scriptures like a lawyer. Understand every nooks and corners of it. So to the extent where we get convinced, there's no point of just doing listening, because the first step is Shravanam, as I said, the second is Kirtanam. Till we don't start speaking, we have not gone to the next level. So asking questions, Pariprashna Sevaya, that's the words in the Bhagavad Gita also, which very clearly says asking questions and getting our doubts cleared is very important. So anybody, any questions, any challenges, feel free. This is an open forum. There's nothing to, nobody's judging you basically. Probably most of you don't even know each other. But any questions, anybody, any realization, anything that you felt is different from what you have already heard so far? Anything that you're not convinced with? Yeah, that's beautiful. He's saying that he's been listening and reading also, and every time there's something new that comes in, that is because the topic of Krishna is unlimited. Ananta Shesha, the first expansion of the Lord himself, who is also Balaram, he has thousands of mouths, and with those thousands of mouths for millions and millions and millions of years, he's continuously talking about Krishna Katha. He's still not finished. So there is that much amount out there. You know, and thank you so much for sharing that, because I have been reading the Bhagavad Gita now for close to 16 years. And every time I pick up, I get to realize something else, something new. That's the beauty. One novel you pick up, You read it once, you love it. Twice, yeah, you like it. 3, okay, you dragged through. 4th time, you're not going to pick it up. Reading the same book again and again and again and again. And even still, if I get an opportunity, like I love traveling because of that reason, because when you take a flight, there's nothing else that you can do except read. So I love it. Then I read again and I get more. So if you don't have a copy with you, please take the opportunity today to buy one. Right? It's an unlimited treasure. Thank you. Any other realization questions from anybody?
So, like even before accepting Krishna, it's actually very important for all of us to first accept Srila Prabhupada, like his commentary, like the validity of his commentary.
Yes.
Because like you said, there are many authors who write
Many different
garbage,
things. Correct.
right?
Yes.
So how are we going to do that with Prabhupada? I meant to say because we are devotees, so we've already
Correct. So let me first clarify. So Srila Prabhupada was specially very merciful in being able to connect with us, in giving us knowledge in a way that it becomes absorbable for us. Which does not mean that he's the only acharya. Right? There are so many different paramparas, there's so many amazing acharyas that exist out there. The only exception with Srila Prabhupada and why we crown him as being the Jagat Guru is the fact that his knowledge, the way he gave it to us, these so complex concepts, he's been able to explain that to us in such a simplified manner by giving analogies. So this Bhagavad Gita is what he's given us. And he's given that in such an authentic manner, giving every verses that you become an expert. You look at all the devotees out here who come to the temple, right? They're white-bodied from different countries, who never heard of any of the Indian origin languages for that matter, are reciting Sanskrit verses so beautifully. That is Srila Prabhupada's mercy. He's given it to even them. He's given Krishna's, this Bhagavad Gita's little tiny bit of realization even to me who's been the most sinful ever. Like if you start ranking everybody in the world, I will probably be the highest on being sinful to all the things that I have done in the past. But that's the glories about the soap itself. To your point, Prabhu, so yes, Srila Prabhupada is very special in that perspective of Acharya. There actually has been, there are scriptures in which it talks about, like even Chaitanya Charitamrita, it talks about there will be this one devotee who will travel to the Western countries and give this knowledge to everybody, and he's going to start and make this Sankirtana movement go global, the one that we have been getting through a parampara. It was mentioned that there's going to be one very powerful Acharya who's going to come and make this happen. So yes, love for him, faith for him, and dedication towards him will really help us understand or connect with his purports better for us to be able to understand Krishna. To your question of how do we do that? We will be able to do that by seeing examples around us. As I said, I have been, so this very same temple is where I started my bhakti with long time ago. I went back to India and then came back again. But this is the very place where anybody who's known me from that time to what I am now can see the difference. And that's Srila Prabhupada's mercy. And there are so many such examples. That's how, they are testimonies. That people saying, oh, it changed me. And that's testimony for us to start having a faith. If it can happen for somebody else, it can happen to me too. And the characteristics of what change is coming in the Sanskrit, it's actually exactly called as anartha nivritti. So for those who are wondering, how do I know if I'm actually doing good in my spiritual practice or not? If what I'm doing is making sense or not? Is my practice actually correct or not? The term to identify that, the litmus test for it is anartha nivritti. What that means is, anartha nivritti means removal or reduction of unwanted things. The Bhagavad Gita talks about characteristics of what you should have and what you should not have. Very commonly understandable thing, for example, is, oh, you should not get angry. Right? Stable-minded. Being determined. All of these things are qualities that you will see. Anything which is unwanted, like for example, uh, my habits about drinking or smoking or something. All those things are unwanted activities, right? If we are genuinely into a genuine spiritual practice, following somebody who is genuine, then we will see differences in ourselves. If we are the same person that we were, say, 5 years ago or 10 years ago, we have not done any spiritual progress, which means what we are doing, there is something wrong with it. Right? When we do something, there has to be an output of it. What is the output of so many years of spiritual practice, of coming to a temple, of doing this, of doing that, if it has not made any change in us? And that change is inside. You would know it, but even before you would know it, I always say this because it happened with me, the first person to see that and observe that change will be your mother. She will be the first one. There's something up here. They will know. You're changing, you're saying things very differently. For me, that realization about that change concept came in, and probably I've given this example multiple times before, is I was in India and I got fired one day morning. Went to the office, I said, put your laptop, go back home. Everybody's crying, cursing the HR. That shut down the entire thing. And I'm the one who's going over there and said, guys, are you okay? Forget about me. Are you okay? And the HR says, you're the first one who's realizing the fact that when everybody is getting fired, we are the next ones to get fired, and we are hearing all of these things. And that is when I realized that it changes you. It changes how you perceive things, how you react to things. And that, if we see it within ourselves, we know we are following the genuine spiritual process. And these characteristics needs to match with what the scripture says. I said 3, what was the thing I said? 3? Does anybody remember? Guru, Shastra and Sadhu. It needs to match. What we are seeing is a finding. A drunk person dancing versus a devotee dancing in kirtan, 2 very different things. When we match it with the description of the scriptures, then we realize the difference. But for somebody who's not trained in that vision, we'll see them as being same. Now both of them are having fun. Yeah, let's talk tomorrow morning what happens. Right? So that's the thing. Any final last question before we close? But thank you so much for that wonderful discussion. Anybody else? Any realization? Feel free to share that also. Perfect. Thank you so much. We are also at time. Thank you so much for coming. This program is called the Tuesday Sanga, which is every Tuesday at 6:30 we do this. Rotation of speakers keep happening, but the concept and the continuity of verses will continue to be there. So if you are able to join us Tuesdays 6:30, please do so. And before you go today back, think about what Bhagavad Gita means. And if you don't have a copy of it, please do pick one today. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.